This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerantz inside the state capitol in beautiful Lansing, Michigan. We are joined by the Democratic leader of the state Senate. His name is Jim Ananich. He represents Flint, Michigan. And so, sir, I must ask you very simply, how are you and your constituents doing in the wake of this really debacle?
Yeah, it really is. It's you know, there's frustration, there's anger. You know, the length of this time that it's taken to have any sort of semblance of normalcy, and we still don't have it yet, I think it's creating a lot of anxiety, a lot of guilt. People feel like maybe that was their fault, even though obviously, by all accounts now, it was state government's failings. And
let's talk about that, because I understand you were getting statements from constituents saying something's not right here. Well, give us kind of a sense of the timeline of what you were experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, I know in the summer of 2014. Well, one, I mean, I live in Flint, so you know, I noticed this. I noticed the change. Right
you
away.
did?
Yeah, I mean, the taste, the smell.
Color?
I didn't have color issues.
Okay.
That is a real problem for people in parts of the city, and that's part of the issue. Is that it was different. The quality and the quality was bad everywhere, but you know, the visual effect was different in different places in the city. So, you know, I noticed it right away. And then the first issue we had was an E. coli, a number of E. coli breakouts. So we were doing, you know, they were advising people to do boil water advisories. So myself and now State Representative Neely did the first water drive. We put together some money and gave out bottled water in the summer of 2014 because we knew something was wrong. We were expressing these concerns, obviously, to folks at the state and local level. And you know, had a number of meetings, myself and Representative Neely and Representative Phelps and others, and just sort of went on deaf ears. And
let me ask you, because look, in the final analysis, I can't imagine anyone wanted this to happen.
No question.
But in your mind, do you believe it could be that there simply was a tone that we want to be less regulatory in Michigan? That we have a new gubernatorial administration that came in after several years of Democratic governors, and as a result, there was just a hands-off approach, which led to this sense that it will get resolved. We don't need the government to get involved.
I think, you know, I think you mentioned tone, but I also think it was a culture that was created. I mean, the governor in his own campaign, one of his statements was, you know, that was not, the intent was this not to be an enforcement agency, the Environmental Protection Agency, which that is the whole purpose of it, is to protect people. And the first executive order was to sort of create this department now that they implemented the culture in. And then it was, you know, basically ignore, discredit, deny problems. I don't think anybody purposely did this to the citizens of Flint. I don't think anybody.
Although, you know, one could argue, of course, it wasn't purposeful in that they wanted to injure the citizens, but we do have criminal indictments, which suggest that there was potentially some cover-ups.
Yeah, no question.
And so, while the intent wasn't, well, let's get these children sick, it's more than just, you know, it's commission. It's commission.
No
there was affirmative action.
That's the problem, right? And you see it throughout the Department of Environmental Quality. You see it throughout the Department of Health and Human Services. Obviously, we had huge spikes in Legionella, enough to have 12 deaths. And you know, finally acknowledged it in January as a problem. We're going into the season now. What steps are being taken to protect people in Flint still? We just haven't seen those things. It's really a frustrating and an angering. It's I get very angry, as you can imagine.
I can imagine. And I understand. I hope it's okay
to
say you have an infant.
Yeah, I have a 10-month-old.
And so those are the humans that are most at risk.
Yeah.
And so what are the what are they doing?
Yeah, we use bottled water exclusively for him. We use some filtered water for ourselves. And I can tell you, I've had my water tested, and I've had it tested a few times. I've had a couple times where there was lead in it. Most of the time, it comes back undetected. And because I was lied to by my own government, I still don't trust it. I should know intellectually. I should know if these tests come back with not detected, that I should be safe to drink it. I just won't do it.
So there's a lot of finger pointing going on, and in the end, we just want solutions.
Sure.
But has the finger pointing in your mind ended, or are we still pointing fingers at, no, it was the state government, no, it was the federal government, no, it was the EPA, no, it was DEQ?
You know, there's still some statements coming out of the governor's office where they still kind of, it wasn't our fault, it was this person's, even though, I mean, every independent whether it's the task force or the auditor general, have pointed the finger and said, look, it was the governor and the culture that was created throughout these departments. It was their fault. And now that the criminal investigations are going on, and I think they're just beginning, I don't think they're anywhere near from being over with, I think that's where we're going to get true justice in Flint. I don't think we're going to get it any other way.
So do you believe that in the final analysis, the governor was not given the proper information early enough?
It's hard to say. I mean, the information seems to change. It appears that he knew about a number of these problems, a lot earlier than he said he did. Whether or not people were telling him, we've heard about this, but we think it's this. They definitely didn't err on the side of let's protect the public.
Right.
They erred on the side of how does this going to look? And I think that's an unfortunate thing that happens too much in politics, where the public perception, the PR campaign trumps the public health campaign.
I understand that the Senate Democrats have been pushing for some type of citizens oversight committee over DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality. Any progress on that front?
Not yet. We're bringing something back that was there. I've had conversations with the interim DEQ director. He's got a couple changes he'd like to see, but I think everyone acknowledges that we need to have citizen oversight. We need to have citizens' voice. But actions speak a lot louder than words in this town.
What about the concept of emergency managers? Because we know there was an emergency manager put in who ultimately made this decision to switch the water supply from Detroit to Flint, and who ultimately decided not to spend $150 a day to add a substance that likely would have prevented the leaching.
Yeah.
And so again, hindsight is 20/20, but do we need to look at the whole concept of emergency managers and what their power is?
No question about it. I think the current law, Public Act 436, needs to be repealed. And then I think
repealed.
I would repeal it, and I think I would start over again, either back from Public Act 72 or Public Act even 110. I think obviously you need to have some mechanism in place when cities or school districts are struggling. But this sort of, it goes against the principles of our founding fathers to take away all voice, all democracy, and to give one person total power. We fought against that,
right?
And you've just never seen results that are positive for people when you do that. It just doesn't work here in this country for sure, and it doesn't work most other places either.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the challenge of the last few years here in Michigan. I mean, we've gone from the loss of manufacturing jobs, the bankruptcy in Detroit, the crisis in Flint, the crisis in DPS. It just seems as if it's got to be tough. You're lurching from crisis to crisis. The scandals in the House, fortunately not your body.
Yeah, that's for sure.
How do you manage?
It's tough, and there's no question. I think it's coming back to sort of fruition. The policies that they've been implementing just don't work. I mean, we're seeing, like you said, the failings in DPS by a state-controlled emergency manager, the crisis in Flint by a state-controlled emergency manager. You got the abuses in veterans in the west side of the state at the Grand Rapids Veterans Home, Department of Corrections violations and abuses there, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And at some point in time, you got to realize this. These are human beings. This isn't a balance sheet, and you need to think about it. You have to think about the way you run government. There's a philosophy that clearly doesn't work, and it needs to be acknowledged and then changed.
Is the problem there's too much power in a single political party in your mind?
I think that's definitely part of it. I think if they had a different philosophy about the way we govern the state, even if they had control, it would be better. But I can tell you, in the House, they seem to be only about because I hate to even call it a plan, but they're DPS bills that they passed that the Treasury even said would actually cause a bigger deficit.
And it seemed as if in the Senate there was some nice bipartisan agreement on DPS.
Yeah, we found times even with the numbers as out of whack as they are, 27 to 10 right now, but eventually 11. We're able to find common ground. The DPS plan that came out of the Senate was bipartisan.
Right.
Business groups, labor.
Sure.
So many folks supported it, and I think that's a more sensible and realistic plan.
His name is Jim Ananich. He is the Democratic leader of the Michigan State Senate. My name is Brad Pomerantz in Lansing. This is Charter Local Edition.